Colloquy by Bob Newbell. The aliens came in a spherical spaceship that would have been at home on the cover of a 1930s pulp sci-fi magazine. Their ship was nearly 1,000 miles in diameter and could easily be seen in orbit with the naked eye. For 3 weeks, the human race sent radio signals starting with sequences of prime numbers, working up to more complex attempts at communication to the ship. There was no response. As the world debated what to do next, smaller spheres abruptly emerged from the spacecraft and started plummeting towards Earth. A total of 17 spheres landed at various points in North and South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and the floors of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Each mile-wide ball embedded itself exactly 1/2 of its own diameter in the Earth's crust. Humanity's military scrambled to respond to a possible invasion. Over the course of several days, as armies of the various nations surrounded the seemingly inert vessels, seismologists began to pick up something resembling the primary waves, or P waves, that precede earthquakes in the areas around each sphere. Concern that the spheres might be some sort of weapon that could shatter the Earth abated as further study revealed that the seismic waves were powerful, but harmless collimated beams of sound that were directed deep into the planet's interior. The sound was highly modulated, leading scientists to believe it was some form of communication. Recordings of the sound signals were played back to the spheres by various means: loudspeakers, probes sunk into the adjacent ground, even via direct contact with the surface of objects themselves. Again, there was no apparent response. 11 days after the spheres had begun their transmissions, a second set of signals were detected. Seismologists informed that an already stunned humanity that the second set of signals were originating from inside the Earth itself. Moreover, these new signals were themselves modulated like those coming from the spheres. At first, it was thought that the terrestrial signals might have been reflections of the signals originating from the spheres, perhaps representing some sort of acoustic location or imaging modality like the sonar used by submarines. Further analysis of the signals from both the spheres and the Earth's interior demonstrated the unmistakable hallmarks of communication. Humanity was witnessing a dialogue. For 4 months, a ceaseless subterranean conversation took place. Then abruptly, all was silent. One by one, the spheres wrenched themselves free of the ground and flew up into orbit to rendezvous with the mothership. The alien moonlet arced across the sky and left low Earth orbit bound for deep space. For years, we've tried to establish communication with whatever intelligence resides deep in the Earth's interior. The liquid outer core seems the most likely location for some sort of life to exist. As to what sort of life could exist in 9,000-degree nickel iron fluid, even wild speculation seems woefully inadequate. Did the depths of the Earth somehow become home to one of the sphere aliens at some point in the past? Or is there an indigenous extremophile civilization 2,500 miles below our feet? Could the Earth itself be some sort of self-aware being? We have no answers. 8 Years by Tim Rouse. It's been 8 years. I suppose it had to happen sometime. They've been here longer than that, of course. Just shy of a century, they say. But 8 years ago they revealed themselves, thousands of people enslaved, with aliens in their bodies, and suddenly they wanted the rest of us to welcome in an alien guest. And people lined up for the opportunity. Maybe it was something in the water, but I drank that water, and I never wanted to put an alien inside of me. I suppose when they saw some of the people the aliens already had, the president, hell, they had the president. They didn't think it was worth fighting no more. Of course, lots of us did fight. Didn't matter for the most part. One of them inside the camp was all it took to open the gate, so to speak. And once they were in, didn't matter how hard you fought or how fast you ran, you ended up in the back of a van, headed for processing. That's where everyone ended up, processing. It didn't matter if you fought to the last man, or if you welcomed them with open arms. There was only 2 ways out of that place. Death for the fat, the terminally ill, or whatever. We still don't know, to tell the truth. My guess, they were just thinning us out. Maybe they didn't need 8 billion bodies. Or maybe they just wanted to make sure Earth survived once they took over. Maybe it was the lucky ones they killed. The rest got taken. One of their grubs down your gullet. And 2 days later, sat in your stomach, latched onto your spine. And it's them running your brain now. They claim it's like motherhood. But I always figured they were more like zombies. A few of us got away. Not many. 1 in 10,000 maybe. Probably less. Might be more overseas where there were less people. Russia perhaps, or Madagascar. Round here, most live in the hills, on old farms or in caves. And then there's us. Domestic terrorists they call us. Freedom fighters we call ourselves. Bombings, vandalism, straight up executions sometimes. We'll do anything to rid this planet of these monsters. But sometimes you stop, just when the crowbar should be smashing into the skull of a pretty teenager, just as the cold, dead eyes of an alien inside betray, just for a moment, a flicker of fear, of humanity long since smothered. It's been 8 years, I suppose. It had to happen sometime. You stop once too often and the police are onto you, and it's no mercy. The aliens don't know the meaning of the word. So there we are, 2 of us already dead, the rest of us battered, beaten and on the ground. The police aren't paying much attention anymore, busy with the growing crowd. There's no way we could get away now, unless... I look over at Owen, and sure enough, he's already got his slim wrist out of the cuffs. Go on, hisses Cassie, a girl I thought I loved once, but whatever happens to me tonight, I'm fairly sure I'll never feel love again. Owen looks unhappy. I just can't leave you all to them. I cut him off. Just go, Owen. The fight must go on. Resigned, he nods, rises, and darts across the street. As he walks up the road, mingling with the passers-by, I can't help but think, they look so like us. The Invasion by Alzo David West. What Ozzy did most with his virtual reality game, The Invasion, was not the playing, but the observing. His parents had recently moved to the big city, and they put him in a new school and physical fitness club there. However, he was not the gregarious type, and he made no real friends. So frequently, after school at the club, once he finished an olive loaf and a lacy Swiss sandwich with a glass of pulpy orange juice, he connected himself to the game. He would sign in on non-combatant mode, often in the point of view of a tree, a stone, or a bird. The game world setting was an abundant panorama of weaving coniferous forests and still wetlands under a bright neutron blue sky. Sometimes everything almost felt real, especially the four-dimensionally simulated wind and green smell of the branching pines. All the same, every time, the placid serenity would be abruptly interrupted by the glassy screams of flying saucers, exploding particle beams, and roving units of ragged woodland guerrillas and snipers waging hit-and-run strikes with archaic general-purpose machine guns, fighting desperately against the technologically superior battalions from beyond the celestial sphere. It was a terrible, mesmerizing, awesome scene that Ozzy took in quietly, speechlessly, and seriously. He was going through his observation routine when his mother, who usually did not bother him, suddenly grabbed his shoulders and shook him in a frenzy, saying she was extremely tired and needed his help emptying the heavy shopping bags she had lugged up 12 flights of stairs because the 2 apartment elevators were under repair. "No!" Ozzy shouted. "My point of view!" He saw himself in the middle of a guerrilla ambush. The men and women mercilessly fired their machine guns at a dreary menagerie of straggling creatures that resembled something between sea worms and centipedes. Ozzy felt the 4-dimensional simulation of the searing rounds of AP bullets, as if they were truly rending and destroying the muscles and bones from his arms and body, and he quickly disconnected himself from the game. The guerrilla unit was surveying the area where it had attacked and slaughtered the surviving reconnaissance crew of the flying saucer the snipers had shot down. The soil was sodden with pale yellow blood turning blue, and the ground was a mess of shattered extremities, pieces of life support suits, and indeterminable entrails. One of the guerrillas, a fairly gaunt man with scraggly black facial hair, appeared confused. "What's wrong, Gonzalo?" the swarthy guerrilla commander asked. "I saw a kid. An ochre-complexioned kid. I saw him too. He couldn't have been more than 11 or 12, and we killed him." "I realized that, Gonzalo. He just ran in." "Yeah, he did. The way he looked, though." "Well, how's that?" "We've been fighting and starving in these hinterlands for 6 years now, but the kid, he looked totally healthy." "He probably came from the stocked-up cottage out there our units haven't found yet." The commander said this. The 2 men peered up at the untouched sections of evergreen trees, crystal lakes, and the forested islands in the distance before them. "Yeah," Gonzalo said, "maybe from one of those islands." But there were no more time for the battle-weary men to muse. The guerrillas needed to move, regroup, rearm. Screams of more flying saucers were fast approaching, and the particle beam bombardments were burning through the woods and the glades. Bounding deer fled the fire and the fumes, and somewhere, a wolf howled in rage. Gathering by Rick Tobin. "Get down!" Carol yanked Private Pennington to the ground below the low walls of the disintegrating bricks. Enemy snipers pinned them. "Sorry, Captain, I just wanted to look." Pennington stared at his commander. The ship's cook was learning the game. An alien shootout in California. Well, this was new. Carol did a team perimeter search. 6 still huddled below the withering attacks. Just stay low. I'll call for air support. She halted. Pennington disappeared below her. He faded, peacefully without distress. The game screen froze. The remaining team stopped playing. There was no cry of sorrow. It was the price of losing a member in cryosleep. The company psychiatrist invented cryosleep mind sharing to prevent deep space cold insanity. It was devastating a third in long suspensions. However, they misreported the powerful side effects as crews realized chamber failures during sharing. Carol shook it off, excising her demons, but her remaining team disintegrated. One by one. Horrified, she hurried back to the commander's control center for hibernation. Her fingers pushed through the panel. She dissipated into dull shadows. What? Where am I? She was confused while acclimating to her new view. She was slipping gently away from the shredded starship Clemens, wrenching in meteorite hail. The titanium hull sparked as it turned and twisted. A kilometer away, Carol watched flashes of oxygen reach the fusion drive's hydrogen recyclers. Explosive light and pressure waves raced through her with no effect. There remained 6 rotating orbs nearby, within a larger glow, all drifting toward her, like the double star in an unfamiliar system. The spheres rotated and trembled, sometimes approaching each other, sometimes drifting apart, displaying bright colors, then regrouping. Carol felt their pull, but could not discern how to reach them. She had no sense of her own body, or by any means to move. She thought about Pennington and his final, peaceful stare. Suddenly, she was next to one of the shimmering bubbles. Didn't have any beliefs beyond life, did you, Carol? She heard Pennington's question clearly. It was disturbing. No, don't be afraid. We're still us. Or at least a core of us, whatever that is. Is this my soul? Maybe we're ghosts. But we exist, even if our bodies didn't make it home. So this is it? We just drift out here in a vacuum forever with no purpose? I'd rather have pure darkness. Where is all this extra light originating? Carol felt anger replacing her fear. Is this the hell idiots believe in? Is this the ultimate punishment? We'll never see Earth again? No, Carol. A deep voice, resonant and sweet, overpowering, entered her. We are here. Our joy is your return to the colony of souls, as we exist to assist all life traveling throughout this solar system. We collect the disembodied spirits of consciousness and reunite them with the all-knowing and all-loving. Pennington, did you hear that? Carol saw the other globes about her glide behind her toward a fuzzy, lustrous path of light. It was a comet hurtling past them to the twin stars. I hear it, Carol, and see the beautiful gathering on its surface. Every system works the same, continued the gentle voice. Every star is connected in the web of creation. Listen to the others sing of their returning. Carol heard the soothing choruses of a million life forms she now gathered with for her soul's continuing evolution. You will enter the star incubator, returning to your system of origin through the multiverse threadways. We, the Shining Ones, are collectors, guides. We retrieve consciousness back to the source creators of every system. Welcome home.